Last week, the MBK-1 journey took an exciting turn as it began to morph from concept to reality. But we hit a snag when the tube bender needed to be upgraded. So we decided to shift gears and focus on crafting the pivot tube and the neck. Now we can't finish the bike with half a swing arm, so
we're back at the shop because the tube bender has officially been upgraded. However, Tom got a little excited and already bent the lower tubes of the swing arm. So today we're gonna focus on tacking it together and making sure that the rear wheel will actually work.
So these are for the first two prototypes. That's the fish mouth that we're talking about, which is, that's what we've called it forever and ever and ever.
Yep.
So that gets you a good saddle joint. Now that joint for a TIG weld is absolutely perfect.
Awesome.
So that will just, that'd be good. So that's the pivot for the swing arm. So that's where it goes onto the main frame.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a base point. Then what happens is you come back from that, and these are the axle plates. So this is going to locate the axle plates. So that gets you the right width for the wheel, the right orientation this way. So now the axle is going to be square. So then this, with relationship to the shock mount, with relationship to the axle plates, is all right.
It's all the same, yeah.
And then this, which is the top spreader bar, will go on. This maintains the right width on it.
Yeah.
So basically what we have to do is with the fish mouth on this is fairly important, because then that's what locates the top tube. So what we're trying to do is get the top tube so that it's just in a perfect welding position for that axle plate.
Do you have to leave a gap for weld to fit in there, or?
No, if you were MIG welding them like it was a commodity from overseas or something like that, you'd MIG weld them because it's much faster and they don't care about gaps.
Yeah.
This is exactly why I was saying before that it would be almost not impossible, but it would be very difficult to get a prototype without some sort of a reference fixture. And the reason for that, if those got welded on the center of the tube, which they will be, but that tube was not quite right. Now all of a sudden it's tipped.
Everything's wrong.
So the idea is, again, the important things are the pivot to the axle plate and the front shock mount.
So this is why it's important to hire people who have expertise, because if I bought a tube bender and a welder, I would most likely mess up everything that he just said because things would be bent and stuff. So creating a fixture, again, is one of those little details that if you don't know and you'll mess up. So this is awesome.
All right, so with those 4 bolts in and flat, we know the axle plates are now in the right spot.
Yeah.
We know this is in the right spot because that can't move. These, like I said, are just a method of getting there to hold everything together.
Yep.
And then that one that we had, which is here, what we'll do is we will fish mouth that to get that sitting on there, and then we can match the angle.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it turns out fixtures are not just for welding. Tom also had to build custom fixtures to precisely hold the tubes when fish mouthing the ends, which he's showing me right here.
That's the normal one that comes with the machine that sits there.
Okay.
And basically you can put round tubing in and fish mouth it. But if you've got anything on the end of the tube, like a bender or
I
whatever,
see what
it
you
won't
mean
work.
now. Okay.
That's the fixture that I made. So that lays in there like that, and then you clamp it. The big one that's coming is the one for the frame rails, because the 2 frame rails, they have to come in at the same time on different angles, and they also are not on the center line.
Yeah, because they're off and they're touching each other.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to cut 2.
Sure, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Again, it takes more time now,
Yes.
but it's worthwhile later.
But once you do it, it's done, and you can now build as many as you need quickly.
Yeah, and you're going to make 200,000 mini bikes, so we're going to have to have it.
200,000. Go to hit the link in the description to be one of those.
What I meant to say is be one of the first to own a Mantini.
So this is like one of the fixtures used to do the fish mouthing, which is basically cutting the tube at the end to add a little bit of a groove so it fits perfectly on the other tube. This is actually really cool to see, and can't wait to see how it actually works.
So basically this is just for a straight one. This is going to be a straight in fish mouth, which will be the one for the saddle there.
Yeah.
So basically that. But basically for a 90-degree joint, there's, again, that is that's really nice one to weld.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's seamless.
Yeah.
So because we're building 2 prototypes, we had to actually do this to 4 separate tubes before we can start welding.
All right, so now That's very close. So now we just lose the corner here on the grinder, and then we have our first brace. All right, so that fits. And then what we'll do is we'll see what we can do about getting that tacked in now. There's an awful lot of variables. I got a tiny bit of twist in here, but we'll be able to take that out. Like an expectant father, fairly shortly you'll be able to hold your first swing arm.
This is the moment of truth, taking out the swing arm from the fixture. It's tacked and welded in place.
There's a certain procedure that's going to have to be done.
Oh, I guess because yeah.
Because the axle plates are not on the outside.
There it is.
You get all the rest of the welds, but there's the number one.
It's like I just had a baby. But only one limb came out so far. It was not hot. It was hot though. Wow.
It's your baby.
This is my baby. I need a blanket.
Oh, what's its name?
MBK-1.
And how much did it weigh at birth?
Actually, I'm curious how much this weighs. I feel like this is, you think 10 pounds? Maybe.
Strangest part about all this is I have a baby scale in there.
You actually have a baby scale? Will it not just fall? I guess I'll barely hold it. Okay, here we go.
8 pounds.
8 pounds, 1 ounce. This is really cool. This is gonna be the foundation of how we then build the rest of the bike, so we know for sure it will fit around this. I think people are gonna be very, very happy with the quality and how solid this is gonna be. When you have this, you're gonna feel like, okay, it's not gonna break down on me. This is cool.
But there's still one more thing we need to double check.
We got the wheel and the swing arm, and we're gonna put them together to make sure everything lines up perfectly. One thing before I start is in the actual wheel itself, there's a spacer that keeps the bearings exactly where they need to be. But when you hold the wheel like this, the spacer drops down. So I gotta try to get the bolt in there while getting it through the swing arm so that it actually goes all the way through. So it might take a second. I put it on the wrong way. We know that it works, but just for my sake of sanity, I'm gonna flip it around just so that I know exactly what it will look like. But this is a really good start. The fact that this is the first one, and look how smooth that is. There's not even any spacers or anything in there yet, but everything works good. There's plenty of clearance. There we go. Okay. Also, again, we are developing a really cool parts kit with Go Power Sports. So this is one of their amazing wheels. And so yeah, this looks incredible. Probably one of my favorite wheels on the market for sure.
With the wheel on the right way, now we can make some spacers and test if the brake caliper will line up correctly.
Obviously, a big part of any bike is proper brakes. And so a lot of people, when we were posting about this, they're like, make sure it works with hydraulic brakes. And so as you can see, that's what we're fitting it for. And we created this bracket right here so that it has these little slots so that this will go somewhere back here, kind of like this, and it'll be welded on. And then as you can probably see, maybe not, but it is lined up perfectly to fit in there. And then the nice thing is if you move the wheel forward or backwards, it will go with the bracket so that you can obviously get this exactly where you need it. So that's just a rough idea of what it would kind of look like.
So the more I continue to play with the bracket and to see how it would work with the brake caliper, I think we ran into our first problem. I don't know what it is, but something just doesn't seem to line up perfectly.
The fun part is trying to figure out if you move it forward or back, where exactly does this need to be? And I think this is going to be a little trickier than we anticipate, but I know Tom will probably have a solution for it. There's so many variables when it comes to building something. Will this move forward, backwards? Where does it need to be? And then also, is it right on the middle of the tube? Is it on the inside of the tube? Does it need to be closer to the actual caliper, further away? Will we need spacers? There's so many things. Because another thing too is, right now I could be testing it and the swing arm could be down, but actually the swing arm would probably be more like that. And that's literally probably the thing that I'm running into, is that this swing arm actually should be more like this, but I'm trying it like this, and that little bit of degrees can make all the difference. So, but either way, I think it will work. So quite excited. Tom created some spacers, but we need to figure out how to get them in.
All right, so here we go.
And around the tube, but he has a good
We
idea.
put that, well, I don't know if it's a good idea, it's an idea.
It should work.
All right, so put the spacers on there.
That should work. Hold it in place.
And then this comes down here.
No,
It'll be fine. Take that spacer off.
okay.
Then we ran into our second problem. We can't get the swing arm around the spacers.
Don't you love the trials and tribulations of something new? Okay. Back to the knockometer again.
Hey. So this won't work when it's painted, but I'm sure we will figure a solution out.
Don't be doing that.
The question would be is, how do we make this efficient to put on so that when somebody paints their bike, they're not hitting it with a hammer?
Oh, I think what you do is make this into a keyhole slot. So if that slot was to look like that, and that's big enough to put the spacer through, you slide it back down, then that would save the paint. We could get it to the point where you could put the axle in there and drive it in.
Yeah.
And then if the key slot was right here at the beginning of the slot, then you could load it there and then push it back. And
Exactly. Which I'm interested in that, because then we just adapt what we were going to make here.
at one point, you're going to have to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
I would very much love that idea if we can execute on that.
yeah.
I mean, obviously we've done this, we'll use this as is, but I mean,
That was the reason that I proposed in the first place that we make one or two.
yeah.
The one or two will check the functionality of it.
Yeah.
The refining it with all these little things that you're going to come up with in assembly or little tweaks and stuff like that, you do it on the next batch.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things you don't know until you have it in your hands, right? And 3D printing doesn't really give you the full story. It's like you get the cover, but you got to read the book, which is doing this. But I mean, functionality-wise, this clearly works. Tire's centered. There's plenty of clearance for the caliper and the sprocket, which will go here. I'm not concerned at all about any of that.
Okay, well, there's the first problem.
Now that we've solved the problem with mounting the wheel, Tom and I discuss a few different ways to make the caliper bracket work. However, this might extend our timeline, leading to more delays in prototyping, which means pushing back the VIP presale. This leaves me wondering, when will the prototypes actually be done so I can finally pick a date for the launch and know how much to price it at?
We got the swing arm. For the most part, we're happy with it. 99% minus the bracket. But yes, when do you think we'll actually have a completed build? Because originally the timeline would have been this week, but I'm curious if that's
It's
actually...
only Tuesday.
It is only Tuesday?
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that, are we online, or just so I can prepare?
Because of some design changes and the fixtures that I had to make, we're tailing it a little bit. We're probably looking at the balance of this week and some into next week too.
Okay. Okay.
But
let's get it right.
Yeah. That's the most important part.
All right, it looks like we're on track to have the prototypes completed very soon, which means we can finally announce the date for the VIP pre-sale. So if you're not already registered, hit the link in the description and mark your calendars for April 6th, as that's when we'll be revealing the sale date in our next video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. All right, we'll see you then.